The border crisis back in the spotlight. Texas Governor Greg Abbott saying his state has had to bear the brunt of the burden. This comes as Homeland Security head Alejandro Mayorkas faced lawmakers on Capitol Hill, leading to a tense exchange over the southern border. A showdown is looming on Capitol Hill as Democrats attach a debt limit to the spending bill to avert government shutdown. This raises questions around raising the debt ceiling. And an extremely rare official first edition printed copy of the U.S. Constitution is going up for auction. The value is estimated at $15 to $20 million and is said to be more rare than the Declaration of Independence. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Let's begin with the southern border. Thousands of illegal immigrants trying to enter the country is putting a strain on resources. President Biden vowing to help get the border crisis under control. He told a reporter twice, "We will get it under control." His comments came after he delivered a speech at the UN General Assembly Tuesday morning. He did not elaborate, but some say it's not enough. Texas Governor Greg Abbott saying his state has had to bear the brunt of it.
Well, because the Biden administration is doing nothing to secure our border, because the Biden administration has been promoting and allowing open border policies, it has been the state of Texas that had to step up and address this challenge and work with the local mayor, the local county judge, and the local sheriff.
He went on to say those who do make it across illegally will be arrested.
The state of Texas, we are arresting and jailing anybody who comes across the border illegally and trespasses on private property or on public land. And so it's not the Biden administration catch and release policy. It's the arrest and jail policy, sending a message to these folks and anybody thinking about coming here.
The Del Rio area in Texas has become the epicenter of the Biden administration's border crisis. The thousands of illegal immigrants gathered there is a visual symbol of the 1.2 million people who've been apprehended at the border this year. Now, Homeland Security is asking the military for help.
Under this request, the department would provide contracted air transportation for Customs and Border Patrol on a reimbursable basis, and it can be provided with minimal risk to current DoD missions.
Homeland Security returned over 300 Haitians back to Haiti on Sunday, with more flights expected. DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas visited Del Rio Monday to see the camp firsthand. Some of the thousands there started going back to Mexico following the U.S. crackdown. That's to avoid being deported. And White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki defended the Biden administration on Monday for not making illegal immigrants show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test.
As individuals come across the border and they are both assessed for whether they have any symptoms. If they have symptoms, the intention is for them to be quarantined. That is our process.
On Monday, the White House said foreign visitors will need to show proof of vaccination or a negative test before boarding a flight to the U.S., but it won't apply to land travel from Canada or Mexico. President Biden is presiding over what's on track to be the worst border crisis in U.S. history in terms of numbers. And counties along the southern border have found COVID-19 positivity rates of up to 40% in illegal immigrants. And the border crisis topic led to a heated discussion on Capitol Hill as Homeland Security Secretary head Alejandro Mayorkas faced lawmakers over the border security. Republican Congressman Ron Johnson grilled Mayorkas, asking,
Do you honestly believe that our borders are closed?
Senator, I do.
Of the 1.3 million people that we've apprehended, how many people have been returned? How many people are being detained? And how many people have been dispersed? And I want some numbers here.
Senator, I would be pleased to provide you with that data.
I want them now. Why don't you have that information now?
Senator, I do not have that data.
Why not?
For me.
Why don't you have that basic information?
Thousands of migrants, many of them Haitian, have gathered in a temporary site under the Del Rio International Bridge in Texas. And Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he is disappointed with the Senate parliamentarians' decision on immigration. She ruled that Democrats cannot use the $3.5 trillion package to give millions of immigrants a chance to become citizens.
Immigration reform has been one of the most important causes of my time in the Senate. I will not stop fighting to achieve it.
Schumer says Senate Democrats have prepared alternative proposals. Now, staying in the Capitol, a showdown is looming. That's after Democrats said Monday they will attach a suspension of the debt limit to government spending bill. The debt ceiling is a limit on federal borrowing. Raising it allows the government to avoid going into default. It was introduced during World War I so that Congress wouldn't have to approve every bond issuance by the Treasury Department, as it had done previously. The debt ceiling has been suspended dozens of times over the years, including 3 times during the Trump administration. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says if the U.S. defaults on the debt, it could lead to financial turmoil, including a spike in interest rates and a drop in stock prices. Republicans so far have repeatedly said they will not vote to raise the debt limit.
Since Democrats decided to go it alone, they will not get Senate Republicans' help with raising the debt limit. I've explained this clearly and consistently for over 2 months. Democrats decided to govern alone. Their unified democratic government must put basic governing duties ahead of partisan wish lists. If they don't, the consequences for our country would be catastrophic.
But the spending legislation is a must-pass measure. So if Republicans vote against suspending the debt ceiling, they're also voting down critical government funding. That would lead to a government shutdown. Funding for the government is set to expire on September 30th. And to clarify, the debt ceiling is not about new spending. That's packages like the $3.5 trillion spending proposal Democrats are trying to push through. Instead, the debt ceiling is about spending Congress has already authorized, such as paying out Social Security. According to the Associated Press, it's become a political weapon over the years, as each party blames the other side. This comes as business leaders couldn't care less who's in charge. They just want someone to take care of the issue. This comes as the Business Roundtable, an influential group of top executives, wrote that a failure to suspend the debt ceiling could produce an otherwise avoidable crisis and pose unacceptable risk to the country's economy and markets. And now, before we end, an extremely rare official first edition printed copy of the U.S. Constitution is going up for auction. The auction house Sotheby's announced this last Friday on September 17th, which was also Constitution Day. It was on this day that the Founding Fathers signed the document at the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia in 1787. And it's a pricey piece of paper. The value is estimated at $15 to $20 million.
It's the official printing, the first printing of the final text of the United States Constitution, done probably on the evening of the 16th of September, 1787, only for the use of the delegates to the Continental Convention and for the use of the Congress of the United States. So, very small edition. Of that small edition, only 11 copies survive. This is the only one that is not in a permanent institutional collection.
The copy has 6 pages. It was last sold for $165,000 in 1988. A New York real estate developer known as the late S. Howard Goldman bought it. He was also a private collector of American autographs, historical documents, and manuscripts. His wife, Dorothy Tapper Goldman, is offering it for sale. All proceeds will be going to the charitable foundation established in her name. The auction house said the foundation will use the money to make the public better understand democracy. About 500 copies are believed to have originally come from that first printing. These copies were given to delegates of the Constitutional Convention itself. 2 surviving copies are housed at the Library of Congress.
The others that survive are mostly in libraries or still in official government repositories. For instance, the Delaware Hall of Records has one. There are 2 copies at the Library of Congress. The American Philosophical Society has one. So they're all in very prestigious, very important historically institutions. Somehow this one escaped. It was printed for private use. It's still in private ownership, and I'm very excited to see who the next owner might be.
Sotheby's said the Constitution's first printing is even rarer than the first edition of the 1776 Declaration of Independence.
First printings of the Declaration of Independence are actually much more common than the Constitution. There are 28 known copies.
The document going up for sale doesn't have any signatures, but it includes a list of the delegates to the Constitutional Convention. It also has a letter of submission from George Washington to the Continental Congress. Washington presided over the Constitutional Convention.
Presumably, this belonged to one of the delegates to the Continental Convention or to a member of the Continental Congress. That's who this very small edition was printed for. It seems to never have left the Philadelphia area, and it was consigned to us in 1988.
The first constitutional printing contains only the 7 original articles. They do not include the Bill of Rights, which consists of the first 10 amendments and was added to the Constitution in 1791. Sotheby's also has other historical documents in collection from the colonial era.
The other documents here on display, and there are many more, sort of illustrate the foment of the period that led rise to American independence and Confederation and finally the Constitution. So we have British parliamentary acts that the colonists found intolerable and rebelled against. We have the charter that preceded the U.S. Constitution, the so-called Articles of Convention, which proved to be inefficient.
The Constitution was ratified by the states in 1788 and went into effect the following year. It has since been amended 27 times.
The Constitution has been in effect for 234 years. It's the longest lasting charter of this form in world history. It's as relevant today as it was in 1787. People didn't know if they wanted this Constitution. There were vivid debates about whether it should be ratified or not, and those debates continue today. I think we shouldn't lose sight of is that all sides of the political spectrum still come back to the Constitution, try to make their points from it, try to support their points based on it. It's the foundational document that's going to last, I think, long beyond the current political atmosphere.
Sotheby's said this copy would be offered for bid at a New York evening sales event. It will take place in November, but the date is yet to be announced. This will be the first time a manuscript or historical document will be presented for auction along with major pieces of fine art. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.